This review started around 5 years ago on my 13th birthday. My parents gave me my first phone. It was a Galaxy Gear S7. And from that day on, me and my phone were inseparable. I played fetch with it.
Go get it. Go get it.
I took it on walks. And I even made it its own house. But then one day, disaster struck. As I was filming an instructional video on how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, my phone stopped working. And even though I love my phone and all of its Androidiness, there was a major problem. Texting kind of sucks on Android phones in the US. Let me explain. Texting through your standard texting app generally relies on two different open protocols, SMS and MMS. These two protocols work together to let you send and receive messages in small files. However, there is a lot missing. Things like read receipts, typing indicators, end-to-end encryption, profiles, reactions, and the ability to add people to group chats. Also, the lack of decent file size means that
video is basically useless.
Because of this, I ended up switching to an iPhone. Why did switching to an iPhone fix this? Apple has created a service called iMessage that adds in all of these features, and it's baked right into the default messaging app on iPhone. This means that texting on an iPhone just works when you're messaging another iPhone user. Did you hear the catch? When you're messaging another iPhone user. iMessage only works between iPhone users, meaning that you have to own an iPhone to take advantage of its features. And that's why, as I'm once again in the phone buying position, deciding between this basically better and far cheaper Google Pixel 6 Pro and an iPhone 13 at 3 times the price is actually quite a difficult decision. Okay, so today's review of iMessage is based on 3 different criteria. Number 1, feature set. I want to know how many of the standard features that I kind of have come to expect are on iMessage, and I also want to know if it has any that kind of set it apart. Number 2, privacy. When I send a message through this app, I want to be quite confident that the only person who's seeing it is the person I actually sent it to. And 3, public opinion. How do the people that I'm actually going to be messaging feel about the app that I'm using? Okay, let's get right into it with feature set. Like I said near the start of this video, iMessage has a solid amount of features that separate it from the base SMS and MMS messages that Android users are forced to deal with. Things like read receipts, typing indicators, reactions, decent file sizes, profiles, and the ability to add people to group chats. All of these things are incredibly important to just being able to use a messaging app. But they're also incredibly standard. Most every one of its competitors, from Facebook Messenger to GroupMe, offers this. So what features help set iMessage apart from its competitors? Well, there's some fun stuff like message effects and Game Pigeon. And there's also some more useful stuff like the ability to show people when you're in Do Not Disturb, SMS fallback, which allows you to message people when you don't have a good connection or message people who don't have iMessage, like your Android friend. And the ability to message across your Apple devices. You can message people on your iPhone, iPad, iMac, and Apple Watch. Heck, you can even get your messages announced to you over your AirPods. However, while this feature is probably most prevalent on iMessage, it should be noted that there are several other platforms that allow you to message people from both your phone and computer. If that list of special features doesn't sound that impressive to you, it's probably because it's not. And that's fine. For one, Apple seems to like to take the minimalistic approach when it comes to their software, valuing simplicity over options. Also, it's not like its competition is just loaded with must-have features that iMessage is just missing out on. A lot of messaging apps are honestly quite similar. Even though iMessage includes most every feature you really need, I think it overlooks a very important and basic messaging app feature: the ability to edit and delete messages. This is by no means a fatal flaw, but it is something Apple should consider adding to help keep them competitive. Moving on to criteria number 2, privacy. For me personally, privacy is important, but also it's not that important. However, when researching for this review, it seemed like it was quite a big deal to a lot of people, so I thought it was important to include. It also seemed to be one of iMessage's biggest selling points, and so I thought it was probably important to include. Before doing more research on the matter, I held the opinion that iMessage was probably near the top as one of the most secure messaging apps. This is in part due because of, Apple's whole privacy thing, their whole marketing campaigns and all that kind of stuff, but also because I knew that iMessages are end-to-end encrypted. What does this mean? Basically, when a message is sent through iMessage, it looks like a bunch of random crap until it gets to the other person's phone. When it gets to the other person's phone, it is decrypted and turned into like text using a unique key to that phone. This means that if a hacker, government, or even Apple themselves wanted to look at your messages while they were being sent, they couldn't. It would just look like a bunch of random stuff. iMessage is not the only app to use end-to-end encryption. Apps like WhatsApp and Signal do as well. However, end-to-end encryption is basically the gold standard when it comes to things being secure over the internet. So having it basically means that Apple has top-notch security when it comes to sending messages. However, even though end-to-end encryption means that iMessage is very secure, there's a problem with this. Some messages aren't end-to-end encrypted. What? Colby, didn't you just get finished telling me that the messages were end-to-end encrypted? Yeah, I did do that. Even though messages are end-to-end encrypted when sending between devices, if you choose to back up these messages to Apple's iCloud, they become unencrypted. Now, Apple actually has a pretty good reason for this. It's so that if you were to forget your iCloud password, you can get a new one and still be able to see your old iMessages. I personally think this is a good trade-off for usability, for privacy. However, I understand that this could be a drawback for people who care more than me about their online privacy. Luckily for those people, it's easy to turn off this backup for added security. But overall, for the average person, it's quite good. Now, after all this, you might be thinking, okay, Colby, so you've told me that it's got good privacy, right? But you also told me you don't really care about privacy. And you also told me that the features are pretty good, but they're nothing really that special. So why do you care that much about iMessage? Well, it really comes down to point number 3, public opinion. What I mean by public opinion? It's the human side of a messaging app. How people respond to messages through a platform.
In fact, my thesis really comes down to this. Even though iMessage has pretty good privacy and pretty good features, the main reason I feel like I just kind of have to use it is because it's just the way that the people in my life want to be texted.
Even though iMessage is the most widely used messaging app in America, people don't really perceive it as a messaging app. They perceive it as texting, the thing you pay your carrier to do. This is probably because it is your texting app. That whole SMS fallback thing means that integrated into iMessage is the texting you pay your carrier for. iMessage further integrates this idea because iMessage users don't use usernames. They use phone numbers. You just type into someone's phone number and boom, if they have iMessage, you use iMessage. And if they don't, you use SMS. It's simple. A lot of people don't even know they're using it. Integrating seamlessly with phone numbers doesn't only add simplicity. Our culture has a thing with phone numbers. For over 100 years, they have been the way that people have gotten in contact with one another for a variety of reasons. I think this might have also led to one of iMessage's greatest perception strengths. People are okay to use it for all types of messages, from business to personal, and across different age groups. A lot of apps struggle with this. It might be weird to talk to your boss about your job over Instagram DMs, and you probably won't be able to reach many of the older people in your life over Snapchat. Even though you can talk to all types of people for all types of reasons over iMessage, most of my interviewees reported that it was their go-to for more serious messages. Not serious as in like, I'm so serious and I gotta worry about my stock equity futures, right? You know, business. But more things like dinner invites, running late, canceled plans. Basically, the somewhat urgent and more important things in life. This is probably because iMessage seems to be the best platform to get people to respond and respond quickly. This is massively important. If I'm messaging someone, the thing I probably care the most about is that they respond. Read receipts, reactions, and even privacy don't matter that much if I can't get them to talk to me. It's literally like the whole point of messaging someone. And since iMessage is the app that can do that the best, it's real hard not to use it. Luckily, it's not the only app that has this nice perception behind it. I think people basically have this perception of every texting platform, so that includes the SMS thing I told you about earlier. However, these other texting platforms miss out on so many of the nice features that iMessage adds.
There are 2 opposing points I would like to address. Number 1, if SMS has this good perception, why don't you just use that instead? Well, I would be missing out on all the nice features that iMessage adds, and you might just say, well, couldn't you just get over that? Well, I could, but I don't want to. I think a lot of these features added a lot of nice stuff to messaging, and so I'd rather not go without it. Number 2, maybe you're saying to yourself, well, I don't really think that most of my people communicate over iMessage. Someone I interviewed said that they were more likely to talk to people over Instagram than iMessage. And if that's you, great. I'm happy that you get to use a messaging platform that isn't tied to one operating system. However, for me, iMessage seems to be the place where my people are at, and so it's where I'm gonna probably have to stay.
That's right. In about the week that it took me to script this video, I decided that my next phone will probably be another iPhone. Now granted, this decision was in large part due to the fact that I discovered that the smartwatch I thought I was going to use is broke, and so I would have to buy both the new smartwatch and a new phone, but still. iMessage, at least for me, is important enough to have a pretty substantial impact on which new phone I'll buy. Even if its main strength is just the way people perceive it, not its actual functionality.